Where did you actually arrive with the cultural features? What cultural features? What did you recognize? Organizational cultures. What have you experienced, or what did you notice?
Security system.
Yeah.
Like when you enter in the factory, your cell phone, especially smartphone, need to be confiscated.
Oh wow!
Until you finish your work.
Yeah. So you would hand it in basically?
Yeah.
Okay. So what kind of, how did you feel about this?
Yeah, pretty
Yeah, demoralized, right? So this is the lowest level of, not lowest level, but there's a question of trust here, right?
Yeah.
And for you as well to communicate potentially, yeah? Okay. So would you hand this in at the security guard, or how would that work?
Yeah, I hand to the security guard before I go to work.
Okay.
They're just in the entrance of the factory.
Mm-hmm. And then why do you think an organization would have something like that?
Because they're going to protect some secrets of the customer.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some special design or special technique need to be protect. So.
Okay. So there's a fear of knowledge leakage, yeah? So that actually somebody would come in, you would make photos and sell it then to me as a trader who would bring it everywhere, yeah? And then use it in the slide so everybody can see it and everybody. Okay, yeah? So it's an example. And this is a security or control of communication, right?
Yes.
So bringing in cameras or something like that. Yeah. Other examples? Yeah?
Not sure, but maybe like work processes. Like for example, when you were mentioning in a lecture a couple of weeks ago about the Kaizen philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
I done a placement in a casting company, and they used big Japanese company, and they used Kaizen techniques like Six Sigma and Lean Six Sigma and stuff like that. So they adapted that from their culture, and other people have been planning.
And how did this manifest? So was this something that you picked up, or how would you notice this?
Yeah, pretty much, like, because I suppose with it being a Japanese company, it's built into that Kaizen philosophy, you know. So they adapted those wastage techniques and in their work processes, like, so yeah.
So how would you experience this? Were you part of the production team, or kind of service-facing team, or?
Yeah, I was in the quality department.
Mm-hmm.
So
you would be driven on targets to improve and...
yeah, like continuous improvement techniques and stuff, really.
Mm-hmm. And was it perceived well by the teams that you work with?
Yeah,
or?
Yeah, it was good, like.
Okay, so it can make life a lot more efficient, right? Particularly if you're at the start of the process, this is normally a big relief for teams as well. Yeah? You're working more efficient. Normally this is cutting as well away documentation, bureaucracy, yeah, so kind of the stuff that we covered with Weber's organization. Yeah, so this can be seen as something counterproductive. Otherwise, in the top priorities, what else do you have for the culture aspect that you experience?
I think tax design.
Which one?
Tax design.
Tax design?
Tax design. Job design.
Oh yeah, job design. Yeah.
So, like it need to be clear. So, I think for some kind of not too complicated work, and you have to make like unusual decisions. So we need a tax design. It need to be very clear, so people can follow it and to do it easily. So we not take a lot of time and reduce the mistake when we do that.
Okay, so here we have actually an emphasis that we even cover later. Yeah, so we look at a role or job not based on your profession or based on your trade, which is a responsibility and identity, right? But instead we do task design. Yeah, so I recruit you to work for me, and I have some tasks that I know with the skills you can manage to do. But at the same time, you can't create it too ambitious, right? So you try to avoid that you kind of overload or make it too complicated for new entrants, right? So is this always desirable? Is this good? simple tasks?
It's not really good, but like when you start a new job, so you know what to do. But like
Yeah.
if you have something to improve the way to do the job, you can like communicate with the manager. So, but that is another side. That could be like related to like the vertical communication with the manager.
Mhm.
So not communication with your coworker, but with your manager and senior manager.
Mhm.
Upper.
Yeah. So you may work in a hierarchy, yeah, in an organizational structure. So how easy is it as well to communicate actually maybe to your next level of hierarchy, you know, the decision maker that may have an influence on your job role, to actually say like, I find this not demanding enough, yeah, how could we make this more meaningful, yeah, or even identify additional tasks that you see need to be done and would create value, yeah. So, but here we are again at the learning loop question, yeah. So is the organization actually open for that, yeah? Okay. Were there some other drastic examples, other cultures?
Appreciation.
Yeah.
Appreciation.
Appreciation, yeah. So, yeah.
Like if you choose some numbers of some tasks, then from the higher department, from higher management, you get appreciation message.
Mhm.
That will boost the.
Yeah. So are you thinking here as as a culture generally? Yeah. So if you work with them and you're doing well, it's recognized. Yeah. And how was it recognized, or what did you have in mind there? Is this like a good employee of the week, and then photo next to the entrance, or?
Yeah, like for the board.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is actually common practice. Yeah, so this is employee of the month or problems. So in PepsiCo we had that with Frito-Lay. This is a kind of crisp maker, and they wanted a learning organization. So they had a thing where you could throw your problem box or this needs fixing box. So basically people could anonymously put kind of the notes in, this needs fixing. And then the following week, you would see all the things that needed fixing, and then people could volunteer on. They would get half a day off to kind of work on those problems. And then, if an employee literally did something like that, yeah, and fixed it, then you would get a big. It was really a poster of the face, which was quite intense. But you know, everybody would know. Wow, he fixed this problem for us. And then, yeah, I shouldn't really. So there was a side story. Half of these problems weren't problems, they were kind of by design. And then other people were really upset, why did you fix this? Now I don't know. Anyway, so there was another issue with it. But anyway, this was more telling about the problems itself. But this can be a very strong mechanism. It makes you feel very proud, and as well people are like, wow, yeah, you did great for us.
Even makes others feel to work hard.
Yeah. Oh, I see. So you see it as well as an encouragement. Like, so I became first, everybody else lost. If you became second, you're the first loser, yeah? No, maybe not quite so drastic, yeah, but so kind of like encouraging to work harder as well to kind of make it on the board, yeah? Yeah, okay, yeah, it's very good. Yeah, so again, if you want to know more about PepsiCo, we had a culture, I didn't realize it, that was actually kind of semi-aggressive. Now looking back, I discovered that. So we would always assume that everybody tries their best. And we would always have that as a passive note. So people would say, I really try to do my best. And we would say, I know you're trying to do your best. I trust in this. And then just leave. And I didn't realize it, but this was a leadership training, and it was kind of coding. It's quite easily picked up, and it's actually setting very high expectations. So it creates an underlining culture that everybody feels that only the best is good enough. Yeah. So that can be as well quite intense actually. It's a psychopolitical pressure that is often unseen. Yeah. Again, that was maybe quite sophisticated cultural theory, but we will come to that. You will see. Now, other observations to how can we create a culture that people want to belong to? Any other ideas? Because I posted as a question this morning. Did anybody work on this a little bit more? So we had a few, like encouraging culture, yeah, so as well recognizing people for achievements, and so the positive side, saying like, if you're doing well, we want to celebrate you. No, this is actually good. It's a nice culture. Yeah. And then not locking away the mobiles, yeah, although it's maybe a good idea, yeah, if you don't want to lose your trade secrets, yeah, or particular technology companies or material companies always fight with that. And not to give away their kind of IPs or initial ideas, yeah. Now we came to organizational happiness. Maybe we return to that because I have a questionnaire that I want you to run through to actually do the quantitative assessment. If you're not sure about something, set the agenda in research, yeah, and give people questions that they can decide on. Then we have a good starting point. Now, so let's forget about organizational happiness as such, but whose responsibility is it? Is it yours? Is it the manager?
It's the CEO.
CEO, I like that. So not we as a project manager. Okay. So CEO should be the organizational happiness. What about our project organization? Our responsibility or not?
I think
It's our responsibility, it's the company's responsibility to encourage the culture.
Yeah, I like that. So
the
yeah.
organisation doesn't actually promote that culture, it's very difficult for you to run something as a maverick.
Yes, you are spot on. Yeah, so there's a kind of foundation culture, yeah, and then we can certainly, if there's a certain culture already around, and then you can build on that. We can build as well a culture. If culture is weak, now I will try to convince you of that, and this is actually the other side of the critical perspective, at least that the German Frankfurt School embraced. So we will come to that in a second. So organizational happiness, is it the job of the manager? In project, it probably is. But do we get evaluated on it? This is a big question. Do you get evaluated as a project manager? Do your teams write you like smiley face, 10 out of 10? Actually, in some companies they do. Yeah, be careful. In general, do we do this? Not so much, right? It's normally completion, so it's normally output oriented. Have we achieved that? Yeah. You notice maybe that your project team sticks closer to you if they had a good experience. Now, arguably, it's the job of a leader, and you have already kind of formalized that in a hierarchy. So this can be the CEO, yeah, Chief Executive Officer. Yeah, this is normally how it's framed. Managing Director can be the equivalent. This has a little bit to do with what you're playing with in your hierarchy. Is it the job of a team member? If you are a team member, is it your role to be, as we had earlier, creative and energized? Is this good? Some team members are energized, they're from ground off, but is it your role if you are part of a project team? What do you think? Yeah. Okay, we have yes. Why yes, maybe?
Well, actually, when I think about a leader, so that is a job for the leader, but all the members in the team need to have a leadership characteristic in the team, and one of the leadership characteristics should be like create a good environment and for the team. So I think absolutely that could be also the job of team member when they try to cooperate with other and improve the work performance by improve environment.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. Yeah, it's a relationship. Yeah, the leader can only do so much, but if the team members are just grumpy out of happiness, what's the opposite? Unhappy? I shouldn't go into psychology here because they kind of define it as pain, and then there are all kinds of other issues with those definitions. But the point is probably the opposite of happiness. Yeah? If your team kind of embraces an unhappy state, yeah, then the leader can be very kind of promotional, but this is really just like opposite playing. So you have a relationship here. Yeah? So as a team member, there is maybe an input, yeah, but it depends very much on the level. This is easier said than done, right? We have corner conditions as well. So you're probably not so happy if you are kind of working on making everybody redundant in your company, then happiness is probably another concern. Yeah? But again, so there's certainly a relationship here between the team and the team leader. Yeah. Okay, so well, we had that question already. Is it important? What would be your recipe to success? This is a big question. How would you describe your organizational happiness? So in a way, I want to leave that to you as a homework. So make sure you work through the student handbook on this. But we can frame it a little bit more by actually looking at the cultural perspective of the Frankfurt School of Social Science. So this is the Institute for Social Research, Frankfurt School. There as well kind of, if you want, the forefathers of what we describe now as project organizations, or why we do organizational science the way we do. Now, they had really two main themes before it kind of went into a fight with Weber, who embraced like we should all have bureaucracies. Bureaucracies are so functional. And well, he didn't actually say that. He had a lot of critique for bureaucracy, but he predicted that they would grow and that people would enforce policies over talking to each other. And there's a good reason for that too. But the main critique as well from the Frankfurt School, so this is guys like Adorno, Habermas, I don't know if you've heard of them here as well, Anthony Giddens, London School of Economics. Yeah. So those are kind of people that have followed that strong. They kind of came up with something along the critique of capitalism. So they developed a dialectic theory. What is dialectic? Dialectic? It's kind of an educational tool of like looking at something in detail. What do we do? Dialectic? Dia? Does anybody know? Spanish, Italian? Two, yeah. Lectic, so you kind of try to oppose and then look at the sphere that you have built. Yeah, so maybe good and evil. Is that a good and bad? I'm not sure. Yeah, so could be either. So that would be a typical one. So they try to kind of open up and look at culture industry. So the argument was really that we are drifting into a corporate logic. All of us, even at home, and if you have been at my home, then this is certainly true. Yeah, so there was a schedule when I grew up, when I had to get up. There was a packed lunch, and there was a timing when I had to pick it up. Otherwise, I would have lost my slot. Anyway, that goes probably a little bit too fast. But the point is here, they kind of predicted that we would arrive at a culture industry of mass production of culture from above, and they referred here to culture, to lifestyle, how we appear, how we communicate, how we identify even our values, how we structure our life. Now again, we have to actually have a look at this. So they argued as well that work and home will be different. They had as well a critique of enlightenment sort, so this is a critique of narrow view of science and technology. Enlightenment project perverted by the narrow view, and Enlightenment project must consider itself. So what is that all about? It's really that we have a deterministic view. We think that with science we can solve our life into a better world, per se. Yeah? So that was kind of their main things. So let's have a look on what they were criticized for. Largely, initially, elitist conception of culture. High versus low culture, and we do the question in a second. Narrow view of culture, that was kind of their main criticism. Now what does that mean? So the main conception was that if we are all educated, if we all have an understanding of ourselves in society, what we strive for in terms of self-development, then we can engage a lot more meaningful. So their idea was, give everybody kind of the basics of law to kind of be a citizen that can protect himself in front of court, give everybody the basics of citizenship. Be aware of your rights, how to be a democrat. Yeah, so keep in mind this comes from Germany. I kind of follow a social democratic tradition. And as well that you should be critical of culture or artifacts, materials, which we had with Marx, that are kind of counterproductive to your intent or your fulfillment, that bring you up of course. Now, with this, they kind of had other elements, but we will come to that in a second. So they criticized as well social actors viewed as cultural dopes. So it was kind of the notion that if you consume something, you get driven by it. Now, we certainly have that a little bit. If you think about it, Facebook didn't exist a few years ago. Now, by average, the Facebook user spends 3 hours per day, right? Is that true? 3 hours per day on Facebook. Yeah. Now, employers dream from that statistic. Yeah, if they could make you work 3 hours fully committed on something, there are a lot of employers that would give you a lot of money for figuring out that trick. But the point is, we have kind of shifted it, and this is kind of what they predicted. So cultural dopes, but actually this is only a partial example. It's true. Yeah? So I would have great difficulty showing this on more examples. Yeah? No role for resistance and agency. So there was kind of an ignorance that you have as well cultural movements. So for example, the hipster movement, I still don't understand it, but I find it fascinating. Yeah? So, and overestimated power of culture industry, so they thought as well that media can steer it quite well. But again, we have kind of phenomena at the moment that makes you wonder, like, maybe they were onto something. But again, this is kind of all 100 years ago, so it's old stuff. Now what I want you, a little bit more. So what did they actually see as cultural studies? Now they saw cultural studies largely as popular culture, as a serious object of study, focus on the everyday, not high and low culture. And the study of culture through semiotic analysis, this is kind of how we communicate. Yeah? Now this goes a little bit too far for us, but culture as a systems of representation. So as well, when we learn a language like a project management language, for example, we actually bridge languages and communicate in a new way across organizations that we couldn't actually reach before. Meaning arises out of difference, so the whole, those are kind of very subtle notions, and we have a look at that in a second. Meaning is not fixed, but open to negotiation and contestation. So this is very important for you as a project management. Yeah, so meanings can be actually negotiated. And last but not least, social actors act as active interpreters and creators of meaning. So this means as well that when you work with stakeholders, you may create meanings that are more relevant to the project than what was perceived before. Yeah, this shouldn't really be surprising. It's kind of a little bit a theoretic backbone, but let's have a look. Okay. Before we go any further with that, I want you to kind of come up with a quick hypothesis. First of all, we need to understand what is a hypothesis. Can anybody explain to me? A few of you had already the great pleasure of reading research methods. Yeah, if you did, this was probably a term that was introduced to you. What is hypothesis simplified? Well, what do you think? Hypothesis. Yeah, an assumption. And what does, can you take, be careful, this is always a block of, I think, how many pages? 3 pages. Yeah? In this way, always take 3, and then I'll make sure that there's a whole block. So an assumption, but what is so unique about a hypothesis? What makes it different from other assumptions?
Based on some evidence.
Yeah, based on some evidence. So first of all, hypothesis, assumption is correct. But what do we do with a hypothesis?
I think you need to check right or wrong or something, and sometimes you cannot like deny the hypothesis.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Needs to be proved through a specific procedure.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can follow, if you are the most scientific, if you look for proper authentication, yeah, or validity, then you may want to follow the scientific method. Yeah? So, and the idea is you have an assumption. Now the assumption has to be testable. So you have to kind of maybe even frame your assumption in a way that you can test it. And in a Master of Science, we normally encourage you to go for something that you can actually measure with empiry. Yeah? And you can go here for perspectives of people. So you may have an assumption that most people will not be influenced by culture. Yeah? So if, in particular here with the statement, so I doubt that there is a culture dominance in society. Now if you ask that question, then you can actually investigate if this is false or true, but you wouldn't actually prove that the hypothesis is true, right? You could just validate that the hypothesis stood up against the challenge. Are you with me? That is actually quite complicated. Yeah? So you try to basically test your assumptions negatively. You try to attack your assumptions. Yeah? So if you're very passionate about a hypothesis, you try to really make it hard to stand up against the evidence. Yeah? Does that make sense? Okay. Can I just check, do you all have 3 papers in front of you, and hopefully different ones? If it's 3 times the same, then something went wrong.
It starts on 27.
Yeah, 27 to 31.
It seems to be missing a bit from the beginning.
So you don't have 27?
Yeah, 27, but it starts with year. They have the losing emphasis.
Yeah, sorry. We start actually by the task at the bottom. This is just, I've just printed basically the student handbook for you, so this is literally the same what you have. What I want you to do is task 2, generating your own cultural case study. Read through it, and you're actually being asked on the following page to state your hypothesis. Now I've framed it already for you to actually see if Habermas and Adorno were right. Yeah, so we are assessing your case. Be aware this is not a proper empirical investigation, but it's true for our classroom. Yeah, so what we will find out is a good representation of what's going on in our classroom. Yeah? So we are testing, first of all, going back to the culture. Do we have high culture versus low culture, or do we have no culture? Yeah, so you will actually see once you read through it, that will make a lot more sense. And then we will give it a go. Yeah? So if you want, you can jump after your hypothesis straight to the questionnaire survey, yeah, which is the second last page. So which is page 30 to 31. Yeah? Did you all have a pen?
Mind if I borrow a pen, Rob?
Okay, I have to run for that too. Or does somebody have a spare pen that you could borrow?
Thank you.
We need one more, right? Okay, good. Okay, you need this way. Can we have one more pen? Anybody? I like how the resource allocation works here. Do you have a spare? That's what I run quickly.
When we say strong or weak culture, if you use, for example, are we supposed to have a positive culture or a negative?
Yeah, so have a look actually. This is described, yeah? So it's literally. Oh, I see.
Very strong culture that's very negative.
Okay,
So
so.
for critique, we should want to go for a good positive.
That's a good question. So the question is actually, can I do a quick one?
It's very dysfunctional.
goes along the values, usuals, norms, traditions, rituals, and cultural network. So I guess what you are asking yourself here, what was there strong values, maybe even negative overviews, can be strong as a way of life, this is just one impact. And where people kind of celebrated for embracing this, or where they kind of promoted on basically playing the political games. So then you have a strong culture most likely. Yeah. So this is actually neutral in a way, so it's not really judging the culture if you want to. Yeah, so then yeah, we can run through the other stuff out. If you want, you can read one through it briefly and see if that makes sense. If you have any questions, so I had already 2 questions. With a strong culture, what does that mean? And just raise your hand and I can come to you. Yeah? Yeah, this is the same question I got as well. So, a strong culture can mean that you have a culture that is there and that dominates. So, if you read through the criteria, they look at the 4 dimensions of values, rules, and norms. Somebody is being embraced, so somebody performs according to the values of the particular culture. And they celebrate. For example, we have there's a picture on the wall. Something like that is a very strong culture. But you can also weak culture, which is differ from the formality. So that people all agree on the boss. When the coffee is out, there's a game about the same. They pointed us out. This may not, both may not be there. So you both have no. And then maybe you could formulate your hypothesis. And if you want, you can combine it with a MSc or another organization from your own company, something like that. But if you want to have a quick read, so this is the theory that we are evaluating.
Yeah, I had the question now 2 times. Yeah, so strong culture or weak culture refers to the cultural model below, right? So this may mean that the culture can be negative as in positive. So you're evaluating either if the actual impact on you is strong or low, yeah, or neither. It can be just neutral, that there is no culture, and that it's actually a mixture of different people interacting, and then you may not see consistent values, or you don't have heroes being celebrated, or it's rather random. One celebrates, yeah, this was amazing, this person, and somebody else is like, that was nothing, this was so much better. Yeah, does that make sense? Yeah. And the model that you're evaluating is in the following sections. Yeah, this is values, heroes, which you what follows if you want to understand it. Is somebody missing the questionnaire?
We have some spare.
Oh, you do it. Oh, okay, okay. Ah, okay. I'm impressed. This is quite impressive, actually. That's correct. No? Okay.
actually?
Kind of didn't work.
Good. Even more clear?
Well, this organisation has a very strong culture that shows up in head to toe. And divide and conquer.
So you have
So it's a
organization
very strong
from,
culture that's important.
it's medium and strong under the values, right? Yeah, good. Yeah, it can be the wrong values. I don't know what it's actually unique as. So you could still have come here on the strong side. So again, this is 10 meters on the border. So I think that's kind of this in the third is very strong. Results in predicaments and they very important.
Just curious.
Yeah, actually, so something like this would work as analysis for the data as well. So where you have a model, you test it, and then if you have a sample, maybe you can compare it like that. Absolutely. Where did you arrive? Oh, my strong culture.
What's the organisation? Music.
Everybody's hiding quickly the organization, yeah?
Yeah, I need to.
Did anybody arrive at a strong culture? So you have as well as stronger? Oh, we have a few strong cultures. Okay, this is interesting. Where was it the strongest? Which categories was it strong? So you had strong, you had strong as well? Two, yeah. Values and cultural network strengths, yeah? So how people refer kind of pathways and how kind of being there for a long time can enrich your nest, okay? What did you have?
Very
Which one? All of them?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, so on the good side, yeah?
Yeah.
So this is quite important actually maybe to realize. Well, was it always good on the high or low value? So in your case it was good, right? So high culture was good? Anybody else with high culture? Was high culture good?
Yeah, it's very good.
Ah, good. Okay.
Very strong, cohesive.
Yeah.
Cohesion.
Okay, so again good. High on values or on what was it high?
High network.
On network.
Everything is high structure.
Yeah. Also, everything is actually strong and very strong the networking. Yeah. So if you're in the right network and if it works, the values correspond. It's amazing, right? It's a good organization to work for. Anybody else with strong culture? Or came out on the strong? You had as well strong. How was that? Good or? Which one? Yeah, heroes and heroine. Good company to work for?
How many?
Yeah, was it good to work for them?
Yes.
Fun, yeah?
Yes, that one.
Okay. So again, high culture, good. This is surprising. We have only good. And anybody else with high culture? Yeah? And as well good? Or bad? And did you enjoy working for them? Okay, so it's good. And as well, very involved. Yeah. So which one do they rate highest? Yeah. So very inclusive as well, yeah, particularly when you're new. Okay. This is as well very good. So this is quite exceptional. Normally I have at least one high culture where high culture wasn't so desirable. Yeah, so it can work both ways. Yeah, so this is really just an evaluation if culture is impacting so strong in the organization or if it is weak, right? So this is what we have identified. Particularly with the networks. I'm always fascinated with the cultural network strengths. Was that good? If there was a tradition of embracing being there for a long time, is that good? Yeah. So it can be good, right? If you have exceptional stuff and you need help, then you can actually know somebody that was there at the time that could help you. Yeah. It can be as well negative when it comes to elements of promotion. If there is like kind of a preference of old networks over new networks, yeah. If that kind of is undermining kind of the progression or something like that. Yeah? But here, very good experience on the high culture. Yeah. So maybe the lessons to take: go for high culture. Yeah, then you're on the safe side. Observation from low culture. Anybody with 0 in culture or at the bottom? Very weak cultures. You had a little bit of that, right? So, what was the lowest aspect?
Network strength.
Network strength. So large turnover, or why was that?
Fairly high turnover through despondency, lack of communication, and authoritarian rule.
Okay. So this is worst, yeah, and high turnover. So this is normally a sign that you probably don't want to be there either for too long, yeah, unless something changes, yeah.
I had one developer turn up and came back after his first day.
Oh, okay. This is probably not a good sign, yeah. So culture works both ways, yeah. But in that case, I'm actually surprised. I would have thought that then some features of culture are probably quite dominant. Maybe the wrong values. But you had medium values, right? Yeah. Okay, so for your journal article that you're writing, this would be actually a way of testing or potentially conducting research, right? So running that with 10 of your fellow students would be actually a sufficient method for your paper that you're writing. Yeah. You don't have to have a hypothesis. You can go as well the other way around and explore, yeah, which values are dominant. So there as well alternative methods. But this is literally what I would expect in one of your papers. Yeah? So this is one of the methods. It doesn't have to be a questionnaire survey. Yeah, you can use any other method. Yeah? But this is easily to conduct, yeah, and easy to analyze. So don't go too wild. Yeah? You're not doing here a dissertation project. Yeah? It's not quite the same caliber. Yeah? It's just a paper. Yeah? Okay. Now let's have a quick look what the Frankfurt guys said. So what is important is they kind of predicted that, and they claimed that culture is a dominant factor that kind of frames us and can be as well counterproductive. Yeah? So this is actually surprising that we come to something like this, that we have like 4 categories that we are either low on or high on. Yeah? Did somebody have no as in no culture? Yes?
Probably I will be in low culture.
In what way?
Actually, I thought it's for idle, so actually I'm doing it with idle.
Oh, I see. Okay. So where did you write?
It's question mark.
Now the key point from them was actually that you kind of arrive at a similar mindset, right? And that can be quite surprising actually if you think about it. Actually, yeah, did you have further questions to the questionnaire? Questions or observations to the questionnaire? Okay, so you have a few more tasks like this in your student handbook. Yeah, so if you haven't downloaded it yet, I have both a PDF and a Word document. Download the Word document, then you can write straight into it and take your own notes. Yeah, and it gradually builds up your paper. So it gives you methods that you can use for writing your paper. Yeah, so it's kind of like an example. It's not on the elite side. Yeah, so if you're just doing that, then you just get 70. Yeah, if you do better, if you do additional research, then you get 100, right? So it's very simple. Well, simple said from here, right? So this is, when I do it, then it's probably difficult to, yeah. But coming back to the Frankfurt School, they kind of claim that culture is the main force that kind of creates shared values, gives us an identity for being a hero, yeah, or a winner, and showing us as well where communication networks, where our associations come from. Yeah, so this is actually a very big claim, and partly they have actually held up with their series. So one of the key theories that they kind of had was organizations are socially constructed through communication processes. Now we are embracing this here as well still. Yeah, this is 80 years old, and it has stood up against testing hypothesis to actually destroy the theory. Yeah, this is a theory that has survived. Well, wait a minute, 70s, 30s. No, well, 80 years, 70 years. Yeah. So organizations come into being through communication. Yeah. So and again, it's our former definitions of organization of communication. Organizational reality is communicative. Now this is mind blowing. Yeah. So this means reality has nothing to do with our physical condition. We need to first look for what we are actually looking for. This is just mind blowing for me. Yeah. But maybe think about it. Yeah. This means as well what you're looking for, even in a project. If you are filtering for certain criteria, you are embracing a communication network where people look out for this. So you create a new perspective. Now think about that carefully, because when we talk about success or failure, this is as well where we kind of frame it with our criteria that we're looking for. Yeah. Now social actors are active participants in the communicative construction of reality. So likewise, if you're in a team, of course your team members bring their expertise along, right? So if you work in an engineering design project, you probably work with designers, with engineers, and as a project manager, you probably try to find a design that fits either a certain client or has like design technical constraints that you're trying to overcome, right? So you probably set your criteria that way. Yeah. Yeah, that was one of their theories. Another one is organizations are political sites of power and control. We had that already. So organizational meanings shaped by actors and stakeholder interest. Yeah, it explained as well the strange analogy from Karl Marx that they brought forward. So they are actually saying that the meanings are shaped by the actors and stakeholder interest rather than the optimal value. Yeah? So think about it. Yeah? Internet and the apps, you may have noticed this. I would prefer if all the apps would be for free. Yeah? Why do they charge me? Yeah, this is a big question for me. Now the quick answer is because they have a business model behind it. Yeah, but the point is, this is more shaped by the actors and stakeholders rather than probably the users. Yeah, so the value generated is not the optimal value for the user, but an exchange value that is actually dominating here. Yeah, so if you remember this morning the session on where this came from, Adam Smith, Karl Marx, yeah, this is kind of the theorems that have been carried forward. Now there is as well a role of hegemony. This is the struggle between different groups over shaping of meanings and ideas. Now the hegemony is really the observation that some groups may have more power. Yeah? So if you have more power, you can just bluntly say so and say like, look, I'm not interested in your meaning. Let's go with my meaning. This is the strictest form really. But there's another element behind it. So you can actually analyze it and see how you can influence this. So you may actually see something like that too, but we have as well some tasks for that we work through. Then there was as well the observation focus on deep structure of organizational life, what underlying interest makes certain realities possible, and limit other possibilities. So this is kind of very meaningful for us already, and that is really about the notion of power and control and how it's negotiated between people. Now the third idea was kind of the organizations are a key site of identity formulation in modern society, and vice versa, they influence as well how we see ourselves as being productive or functional within other organizations. Yeah? So even in our social settings, we take this actually home. So they kind of came up with something in the 80s, I think, process of corporate colonialization. And it was a notion that the logics and efficiencies that we live in working life, we bring them actually home. Yeah. That is when you start, I've lived this already. So in Hong Kong, when I visited some friends and family there, I noticed that my Hong Kong lunch was actually time managed. I went to the restaurant, I had a mobile phone, I had to kind of download an app and then get a user number, and then it told me that I have probably a wait of 20 minutes, but I shouldn't go too far because the table may become available. And then I came back, and then it told me, are we complete? We counted quickly, we had everybody. And then they asked us already what we want to eat. Yeah. And then we ordered, we sat down, 5 minutes later we had all the dishes. They told us we have 45 minutes to complete, otherwise we have to move table because we had a beautiful corner table. Yeah, after 45 minutes we were out and paid. Yeah, very, very impressive. So I haven't experienced something like this before, but all I'm saying is that maybe they had a point. Yeah? So in some evidence. No, well, the point is we were in a kind of restaurant where places were difficult to get there. So with this, they came as well to organization as a primary institution for our identity development. So eclipses family, church, a lot of other institutions that are very essential to any kind of society. Yeah? This is an interesting observation, very contradicting, but they have empathy for this. Yeah? And blurring of work-life boundaries. So this was as well kind of something that they recognized. We had this morning already. Yeah. Now then, another observation was along the lines of organizations are more important sites of collective decision-making and democracy. So they actually observed that a lot of our decisions are actually formed by commercial players rather than by society. So this means as well, if you're a project manager, you're shaping as well what's legitimate. So we can see this in big projects actually, that they set a lot of precedents for how we are living. Organizations make decisions that affect our daily lives, of course. Critical approach argues for more democratic organizational forms. Having said that, this is very difficult to operationalize and actually probably even a little bit questionable at current times. So how do organizations and corporations structure our experience of the world? This is still an endeavor that they try to answer nowadays. So a lot of their research is about that. Now, if you kind of come to the final notion of this, they kind of conclude at the moment, organizations are sites of ethical issues and dilemmas. So as systems of power relations, organizations constantly make decisions that affect people's lives. Of course, this is a very obvious point. Ethics are part of the everyday fabric of organizational life as well. Communication is ethical when it promotes genuine dialogue among stakeholders. So this is very important to us. If we get that right, then arguably we balance the power right and we have very little kind of power influx. Yeah? So if you play this game right, then you have actually an equilibrium where you can kind of easily be the project manager and have a culture where people follow you. Now, by the way, this is quite hard actually. So it promotes, so you have to do so by promoting genuine dialogue among stakeholders. This is the first challenge. Then contributes to individual and relational growth. It's a big question. We come to that next week. Do we want close relationships with our team members? So according to our questionnaire, every time where we had high culture, right, this was amazing. At least from the examples that you have done, yeah? So then acknowledges multiple interests of different stakeholders and includes them as well, right? So this is another problem. Do we play actually with honest players? Can we arrive at a level like that? And arguably facilitates democratic decision making. So you may be still the decision maker as a project manager, but you facilitate what is in the best interest of the team members as well to achieve actually their expertise and their project achievement. Yeah? At least that is what they're claiming. Yeah? Now those are the theorems. I have a few more exercises in the handbook for this. Otherwise, I have just an action system example, but you will have to do this as your homework today because otherwise I will run out of time. What I now need from